More like the shape of land.
More like the shape of Jacob Elordi's package.
Yeah, that's it.
We're here to talk about a movie that we just went and watched, because it's Green Takes.
We did. It's Frankenstein. It's Green Takes. A good friend of ours asked us to cover this film, and so we had to do it because 14 people watch us. So if you put out specific requests, it's very likely we're going to do it. So we went out there and we watched Frankenstein.
We did.
Before we even launch into this film, did you read this book?
Nope. Never did. Did you?
I did, and I not only read it.
I'm really glad that you have and I hadn't. That's perfect.
Yes, it is. I read it in high school. It was one of the grade 11 books or something of a choice. And I loved the book.
Cool.
It was, I think, one of the only times in school where I read a book way faster than I had to. Like, I think I finished it when we were only supposed to be on, like, the 3rd chapter, because I just powered through it. I really, really enjoyed this book. One of my first kind of forays into horror literature. I feel like it kind of set me up to enjoy stuff, like, from H.P. Lovecraft and all that for a long time. So, I love this book. I didn't remember the plot of Frankenstein super in detail, so I did look at the wiki of the book before going, because I'm like,
Good.
I imagine it will be relevant, and I already kind of forget some of the differences, because they are very similar. But yeah, so I had read it, so I was excited to see this, because I don't think I've seen any adaptation of the actual book in my life.
No, I mean, I never saw, like, the Boris Karloff stuff, right? And even that, I think, from what I can tell, is
many
pretty
liberties.
Yeah.
And then there's, like, I think the Frankenstein everyone thinks of is the bolts in the necks. Probably Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, that kind of Frankenstein.
Yeah, like Scooby-Doo, right?
That's the Frankenstein people think about. Frankenstein's one of those books, it's like people talk about...
Foundational. It's like a seminal piece of horror literature that, like, laid out so many things that are called upon. Like, it's a grandfather of sci-fi and horror. And
it is.
But a lot of stuff.
But I think what's weird about it in relation to other books that are in that category is that, like, a lot of people get a lot of stuff wrong about Frankenstein in all the depictions of it.
Yeah, it's one where, much more so, I mean, we're going to definitely talk about Nosferatu here, which is a very faithful adaptation of that book. But I think a lot of people, partially because the Gary Oldman movie, but for other reasons, are kind of understand what that original story is a lot more. I think Frankenstein's 20 degrees away.
And I think a lot of the Dracula adaptations have stayed very true to that book, whereas Frankenstein, that's not the case. A lot of people veered really far.
I would have assumed that's because the book's not interesting, other than the idea of reanimating a corpse.
And it is a more intellectual book, in that it's, like, written kind of like a field log, and it's very science-y to start, and it's a little more cold and a little more separated from material. So I can understand why it kind of diverged from the source material, and this is kind of bringing it back. Because Frankenstein, like, famously, people called the monster Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Famously, people think the monster can't speak and is like a brute. But as we see in this movie and in the book, he's actually extremely intelligent and learns to, like, read and poetry. So this movie is the closest thing I've ever seen to the book, which is interesting, but also different than it in a bunch of strange ways. And I guess that's what we're here to talk about today. I think we need to talk, let's just open it up about whether or not we liked this film, and how did you feel about this movie, Avery?
I thought there was about 35 minutes of a really interesting, good movie stuck in the middle of a Star Wars prequel. I thought a lot of this absolutely sucked, and then I thought that there was some really cool little bits and nuggets that I'm really excited to talk about, and that I think could have been cut into a real special motion picture. I did not have a terrible time watching it, but some of it was really bad.
Yeah, I thought my take was going to be hot, but I feel like we're very similar on this. This movie is like a movie of paradoxes. And it's like, there are individual sections that are much better than others.
Yeah.
But on the whole, there's things in this that are, like, beautiful.
Oh,
Some
it
of the
looks
best
incredible.
Gothic visuals I've ever seen. There's other scenes that look weirdly cheap.
Yeah.
And on another side, there's really beautiful, subtle, symbolic writing and, like, motifs that come back and visual cues to stuff. And then there's also terrible dialogue.
There's Gallagher Hammer level stuff, and it's like, really bad.
How did you write something so elegant with, like, some of the symbolism you did, but then also write some of this dialogue that's like, yeah, I fucking get it. All under the same roof.
I'm just gonna the line is in the movie. Victor, you are the monster.
Yeah.
That's in the movie. Played straight. That's real.
In a scene where you're like, yeah, I get it. So it's weird. It's weird that it has so much quality mixed with so much disappointment, and it threw out the whole thing for me.
I gotta say, I was thinking of it. it's a Frankenstein of a movie.
That's pretty good.
It's a metaphor on a metaphor.
It's a bit of a Frankenstein.
A bunch of rotting, decaying crap stitched together, but that actually ends up with sort of a real beating heart to it.
Some parts are as beautiful as Jacob Elordi, and some parts are rotten flesh.
Oh yeah, they are.
My maker told his tale, and I will tell you mine.
I think let's start with the beginning of the film, because we're talking about pieces here. Mm-hmm. And I found that the opening act was almost completely useless.
Yep.
And killed a lot of the pacing. In fact,
first note here is cut out the entire first hour.
The entire first, I don't know where it was in the time. How long was this movie?
It's like 3 hours. I looked at my phone at 2 hours when we were like not even heading to the final set piece yet.
Right.
So like, this is a long movie.
So first hour, or I'll say even more accurately, the first act. Basically everything about Frankenstein growing up and getting the funding and all this stuff. It's like, first of all, not in the book.
Nope.
So that's interesting that they decided to add this. And it was like completely unnecessary, and it fucked the rest of the movie up. I think actually, like the rest of the movie, if you just cut this, I'd be a lot more generous with the parts I didn't like.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to some of the later stuff that's not as good, and it's like hour 3, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
I did not need to see Frankenstein grow up if this is what we're getting to. If that was like an hour and a half in, maybe I'd be like, all right, it's a little rocky. But in this first bit, it's like, what are we doing?
And even some of my problems with like the writing, because I think I almost want to watch the third act on its own, because I was frustrated. A lot of the writing is just characters loudly expressing how they feel and what the script wants of them. I am currently sad about the state of affairs. Like, that's almost literally the dialogue. But for the third hour, it almost kind of coalesces into like, okay, this is a stage play. It's like an opera, right? Like, this is somewhat appropriate and there's something here. But for the first hour, when it's just like a Marvel movie or a Star Wars prequel, if it's just like, how are we going to get our equipment to reanimate our Frankenstein? It's just so bad. And it kind of leaves that taste in your mouth, that the off-putting dialogue. It's hard to kind of see the point of it in the third act when there is one, because of the first act where there isn't.
Yeah, yes. And then you get lost. You're like, wait, I was going down this path, but now we're going here. I think a really good way to summarize my frustration with the first act is that they introduce a really fascinating idea that I don't remember being in the book, which is that basically Frankenstein's mother died and he had an absent father.
Yeah.
And the whole creator thing is kind of a weird Freudian thing for him. It's about creating life as a man who lost his mother, because that's kind of like this connection he has with life and birthing that he lost.
Yeah.
I don't remember that being in the book, and if it was, I apologize, but that was a really cool idea. How do you express that well? The movie does it. It's him drinking milk.
Yeah.
He drinks milk. And I, as a moviegoer, I'm like, I get it. He's in an infantilized state. He's stuck in that childhood. That's enough. I get it. And then if they just had the whole movie go and he kept drinking milk, that would be enough for like an astute movie viewer to get that. The 40 minutes build up to his mom dying, then they do the milk. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But you didn't need to do the other part. Just do the milk.
Yeah, I think they had some test screenings where a bunch of people are like, I remember, and talk about Nosferatu. Probably had a bunch of test screenings where people are like, I watched Nosferatu and I didn't get it. I don't understand. Why does the vampire talk weird? Can you explain it? And so they're like, okay, we have the milk, which clearly, if you're paying any attention, symbolizes what's happening. So now we also are going to put in a 40-minute scene explaining that. And then on top of that, we're going to have a character narrate what's happening in the scene for half of it was...
Yeah.
Like
Frankenstein, I miss my mom and she left a void in my heart and now I want to create life.
I wrote a couple of these down where after the mom dies, Frankenstein Victor is on the couch crying, and the narrator says, I was very sad about losing my mother. There's another one where the monster is looking at his wounds out in the snow and shivering, and after 10 seconds of that, he goes, my wounds had healed and I was very cold.
But it's weird because it's not like we joke about test screens, and maybe it was, but you'd think if they just tacked that, it's like, let's go do some reshoots, add some stuff with the mom, it wouldn't look this good. Because it
does look really good.
They built this. This
is Guillermo though.
It's Guillermo Del Toro. It's like this beautiful estate that we don't see again in the film. Nope. It's just there.
Everything's all sets.
All the costumes are amazing. The mom's wearing this flowing red dress that is later then echoed in the red angel statue and then the red of his clothing.
Another great example of like this is the stuff that worked that I think is Guillermo's original draft was the colors.
Yeah.
There's like a big thing. I think it was to do with the four humors that they call out at the start, and then there's the colors because like various characters always wear green or yellow or red and black, and it's like I'm sure there's going to be a video essay about the brilliance of this. And I think that is there.
Yeah, and we're latching onto some of it.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's in like a poorly written kind of like Downton Abbey bit. Like, picture the start of this film with the mom in the flowing red dress all the way up to her death, but they do it like when we see Batman's parents die.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it's just soundtrack, it's 4 vignettes, no dialogue, that show kind of that past.
6 minutes long, because we get it.
It could be a minute long. It could literally just be like a smash cut of that life, and then it cuts to Frankenstein at the lecture, demonstrating the body being animated.
No, but the first half of this movie is like going and watching Iron Man 1 now, except the lead character is not charismatic.
And it's characters telling stories within stories, because he's telling a story on the boat, but then in the story, he's narrating what's happening in the story, but it's already a flashback.
It was a very, and it's 3 like Oscar-winning, like top 10 working actors right now between Oscar Isaac, Mia Goth, and Christoph Waltz, and it's just crap.
I mean, their performances aren't crap, but
the characters are.
The characters
and
are.
the writing is.
Yeah.
And it's like they're trying, but it's just really frustrating. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen by any means.
It's just
which is really frustrating.
It's the disparity between the quality of the visuals, the production design, the contrast of that to the writing is what kills it. It's not that it's like the worst writing you've ever seen. It's just like
you're just in this movie, what's the point of this? Like you said, like I'm sitting here thinking this whole first hour could have been 2 minutes of no dialogue vignettes, and you get it, and we get into the good stuff in the third act, spend the time we need with that, and call it a movie.
And it falls into the Nosferatu trap for me, and probably not for you, but you probably kind of, I think even if you haven't read the book, you can tell where it's going, because it's a wraparound story with a framing device, so you know they have to get back to the boat.
Yeah.
But even if you've read the book, you kind of know the things that have to happen, and I did feel a bit of dread in the middle of the movie being like, oh, the wedding hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
Because in the book it's longer, it's like he asks Frankenstein to make him a partner.
Yeah.
And Frankenstein actually does, but then is appalled by the creation and kills the lady Frankenstein. And then as an act of revenge, Frankenstein seeks out his brother on his wedding night and like assassinates him. That's how it plays out in the book, which is interesting, but I was also thinking if they do that in the movie, that's gonna take so long.
Yeah.
So then when they edited it together that he's like at the I guess spoilers by the way for Frankenstein, when they like goes to the wedding and the murder at the wedding happens the same time he's betrayed by Frankenstein, they made it a little more succinct, but there was like a part of my brain that's like, oh God, we still have to go to Antarctica again. We gotta do the wedding.
And I think a lot of this contributed to, like I bring up that this felt like a Star Wars prequel. Every scene just kind of felt like it was not about the characters and it was just to kind of meet the plot beat. Like, especially throughout the first couple hours, it was just like, what do I need to happen now? It's like, okay, that's how the character feels because we need to get to here next. We need to rush along here. And it's just like, the net result was just that it felt very like, weird and jump aroundy, and none of the characters were consistent, I thought. And like that wasn't because of the actors, but it's just like in watching this, like so this is a Red Letter Media in their famous video about the prequels talks about like what is Obi-Wan's character in the prequels? Nothing.
Good guy.
He's just guy. And that's exactly how I feel about Frankenstein through 90% of this movie. The Doctor. He's just guy, and sometimes he's very passionate, sometimes he's very charismatic, sometimes he's an angry villain, and it's just, what does the scene need him to do to fulfill the purpose of this scene? And it felt really disjointed to me, and that was all the characters.
I think Frankenstein's an interesting one to talk about though, because it's a titular role. It's also Oscar Isaac, one of the greatest working actors alive. His performance was not bad. There's no moment I can point to and be like, that's a bad performance.
His fault.
He's doing great work,
but
there's just kind of not anything, there's no oomph to it. There's no scene where you're like, that's the scene, that's the moment. He's just kind of like doing the Frankenstein thing until the end, and there was no moment where it like jumped off the screen to me of like, oh, I see what he's bringing to Frankenstein. Because I don't think there was anything really there.
And I think it's because the script is so disjoint, because he doesn't have that thing to like, again, I think Nosferatu, like with Lily Rose Depp, she was so focused. She like her relationship with Nosferatu was like the point of every scene she was in, and they kind of, and she's able to just do that.
And even if you don't accept that in Nosferatu, you can accept that as a truth
Yeah.
that the rest of the film builds around, right?
Yeah, exactly. And with Oscar Isaac, because of all this stuff, we need to see him being like the rebellious student, and then we need to see him being like the Marvel hero who's building his lab to like become a hero, and then he immediately needs to be the bad guy. And it's just like, there's no focused character here for Oscar Isaac to like put his stamp on. He just kind of has to show up to each scene and shoot it because like, okay, you're a dick in this scene. You're idealistic in this scene. You've given up all hope in this scene. And it's not, there's no line through. And that's true for Christoph Waltz. I think it's true for Mia Goth.
You know what's interesting is that I think the problem you're talking about, I was going to talk about independently as kind of a book thing, and I think it's all the same problem. I don't think Mia Goth's character and her role in this was in the book. His brother's getting married, but I don't remember him falling in love with his brother's bride-to-be. And then the whole love triangle with Frankenstein, I think that's all only in this movie and not in the book. And if I'm wrong, sorry. But let's assume it is, because I'm pretty confident that's the case. I think the problem is that forcing Frankenstein's downturn to be because of envy over the girl, that felt cheap. Because I feel like the whole idea of Frankenstein, and even the subtitle of the book, they call him the modern Prometheus. There's this biblical sense to it, that it is about creation. And it's like, the guilt of creating life is such a fascinating problem.
Yeah.
Like if you created life and then actually started walking around and you were like haunted by that, that's already interesting. You don't need to add in like a love interest to give it a love triangle conflict.
It's a love rectangle.
Right.
Because every character in the movie is in love with Mia Goth at some point.
Right, yes. But you don't need that at all, because that's so much less interesting than the relationship between creator and like child. Like that's fascinating. And the problem is that Frankenstein's whole arc is dictated by that heel turn based on her love and her choosing the monster over him. The movie should have just been about his guilt as a creator on its own. That's enough. He could have gone crazy after creating Frankenstein without an exciting event. Just like the fact that this monster's living in the cellars and he feels bad about it, that's enough if you write around it. The love interest was added from the books, and then it makes Frankenstein feel really erratic, like you're saying, like disjointed, because it's like, what? Is he that in love with her? Like his whole point in life was to create life, and he's done it, and now he doesn't care because he fell in love with his girl?
Then I saw it. Your name. Victor Frankenstein.
Let's talk a little bit about what's good in this movie. We've been bashing the heck out of this.
Yeah, I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't either. I'm just so disappointed.
When it feels like a Guillermo Del Toro movie, that's when it's good.
Yeah.
I wrote down a couple. The hanging scene,
Great.
I really enjoyed.
Great.
The scene of him actually assembling the body, where it's like fun opera music while he's hauling big bloody bags around and like dancing. Very fun.
Good enough that we don't need it. Like that is now the definitive Dracula, Frankenstein's monster creation scene. They did it perfectly as a little nugget.
And then the whole, once we get into kind of the crux of the third act on the boat and like the very existential stuff, the point of the Frankenstein book, I would assume, of like he can't die and confronting that and like his whole like that stuff.
Yes.
That was excellent.
Yep.
And then the 9 other things that they tried to make character motivations that went nowhere were bad. But that was great.
Yeah, the central idea of I can't die, coupled with the guilt of being a creator, creating something that can't die, that wants to die.
Yeah.
Because that's so unnatural to us as humans, because humans want to create life, typically, but you also want to protect that life. And Frankenstein's in this weird position where he's created life that he's shunned, and it can't die. So it's like inverted in both ways. Like not only is he not protecting his child, but the greatest fear anyone has is losing their child. He wants his child to die, and the kid can't die. So there's so much going on. Like it's a very layered, there's a lot to investigate there. Frankenstein asks...
Plenty for a dang movie.
Yes, there's plenty enough. You don't need love interests. And then like Frankenstein's desire to have a partner.
Yeah.
Because he realizes that his life is meaningless otherwise. That was also very poignant and directly from the books. I think that was really powerful. And then I think what's really brilliant about the end that they needed to spend more time on, but unfortunately it's 3 hours at this point, is the idea that the monster with no point in life and the inability to die, decides that his point in life will be to torment his creator. There's something that's brilliant.
Okay, this is my pitch. That's the movie.
You just make that the thing.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the movie.
Because that's what I was thinking.
You open with Dr. Frankenstein is just being chased and tormented by this monster, and it's just a horror movie. And then you do that for like 40 minutes, and it's scary because he's this huge hulking physical presence who is chasing him and clearly doesn't want to kill him though, and is just tormenting him.
Right.
And then the middle 30 minutes, you explain why.
You do the Frankenstein story?
And you need 30 minutes, you need 2 hours, and it's just like a little bit of implicit dialogue about like, you created me and I hate that. Fuck you, I'm gonna torment you now. Like, that's my motivation. And you reconcile in the last 20 minutes. You get a 90-minute movie about a great idea. This is what the story Guillermo Del Toro should be telling.
Yeah.
You watch like Cabinet of Curiosities, which I think is not a perfect series, but is like at least very interesting and fresh. Almost every one. And it's like, this is the part that fits with what he's trying to do. He has this really interesting vision of like life and monsters and mythology. And that's what aligns with the stories he's good at telling.
Yeah.
And this Marvel backstory sucked. Yeah. I don't know why he did it. It just bloated the movie and distracted, and it was not interesting.
I do think that's a very interesting idea, kind of to redo this. I will still say I liked the farm bit parts of it.
Yeah,
It chopped it up. There was moments there that I think were some of the emotional peaks of the movie with the old man. Certainly more than any of the love interest emotional peaks. The farm bit is also probably my favorite bit from the book. And in the book, it's a lot more tragic. He befriends the young girl, and she drowns accidentally. The family thinks it was him and chases him off. But it's a similar thing, and I really liked how they did that in the movie. It was a little too long.
I think I was just jaded at that point.
Yes.
I'm just like,
again, cut out the first act.
Yeah.
Maybe we'd be more receptive to that slower bit.
Yeah.
So I think this is a perfect segue. Because your rewrite I really like, or rewrite, it's just more of a reordering and kind of a reprioritization. Because
pretty much.
All the meat is in there.
Because like the one other thing I want to say that is just like, we have this idea that that the monster wants to torment Frankenstein but not kill him, and like that's presented, and that's a really effective scene. They're in the cave. Mia Goth has just died, and like that's what he says, and like that's a great confrontation. 4 minutes later, we have teleported to the ship in Antarctica with no explanation, and that is now resolved. And I'm like,
do that bit.
We had tension. We had an interesting setup.
Yeah.
The first time in 2 hours, and you've just immediately ended it.
Yeah. And it's
Make
weird.
that a movie.
It's weird. I think my brain expected that less because that's also not really in the book because it kind of goes from like the killing of his brother at the wedding to the Antarctica part.
I was hoping it was just going to cut to black and set up a sequel that's just that. But
yeah, that would be a great to flesh that out instead of spend so much time at the beginning, which is what I want to talk about.
Sorry, go ahead.
Because a very important thing about the book that a lot of people don't understand is that you don't see him create the monster.
Oh.
That's like a thing that got
Boris Karloff.
Then it got lampooned, and then it was in Van Helsing, and then they allude to stuff. The lightning they mention the lightning in the book, but it's basically, they approach it like Lovecraftian fiction, where he kind of describes the setup. He's got some bodies, but you don't even really know what exactly he's doing, and he's at this university. He's still at university in the book when he does it. He hasn't like secured all this funding. No one really knows what he's up to. And then he makes the monster, but he doesn't even really describe how it happens. He like wakes up, and the monster has already escaped.
Okay.
And then you're with the monster in the wilderness. And then it goes into the farm.
It's more like Shakespearean sorcery, where it's like a witch is stirring a cauldron and now the thing has happened, and don't worry about the mechanics.
You get a lot less detail about the mechanics, and you certainly don't get the setup.
Yeah.
He's just like at university studying medicine and does this thing, and then the rest of the book is like the consequences of those actions. So in the movie, that moment would be like when the tower blows up.
Yeah.
And the tower blowing up felt so weird in the movie because it was in like the middle.
Yeah.
But then the movie went into the lull of the farm, and you're like, but we had this big exciting thing, and now we're into like slow territory, and then it kind of never gets action again. The tower exploding should have been the inciting event.
Yeah.
The whole movie should have moved back in time so that it's like Frankenstein's at the tower, and he makes the monster. You can have his stuff in the cellar. I don't mind that he mentored the monster a bit. I don't think that's in the book, but it's fine. It was kind of fine.
I just think his character was bad during it. Oscar Isaacs was like the doctor.
But the tower blows up 20 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the movie, we can do all this other stuff we're talking about, because the interesting part is once the monster's free, The interesting stuff is the monster figuring out his own humanity, trying to relate to humans, trying to reconcile his relationship with his master. But the movie spends so long to give us the monster, and it's not interesting instead. It's just like, it does feel like a Marvel movie. I didn't think about that. It's like the beginning of the first Captain America, where they're just like putting
There's legitimately scenes where they're like, oh, no, my contractors will get you silver parts. It's like, no, I need silver, to put it up here. And it's like a montage of them like assembling the lab. It's like 20 minutes.
And it's all in these sets that would have been so hard to make, and and I'm like, you built all this with love and care, but it doesn't support the story in like a meaningful way.
No, it just seems like, I genuinely just think that the studio is like, listen, we hired Christoph Waltz and Mia Goth for $100 million, and you're gonna write an hour of them, each of them, or else. And he's just kind of like, it's fine, all right.
I almost wonder, did Guillermo Del Toro write Pan's Labyrinth? Or
That's
he
a
just
good question.
direct it? Check it.
Yeah, I'll check that live. I'll check that right now.
Let's see what we say.
So yeah, he wrote it.
He wrote it. So this is, it's just
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Pan's Labyrinth is one of my favorite movies. I think it's one of the best movies that's come out in our lifetime. It's like almost a perfect movie.
And everything we're saying Frankenstein fucked up, Pan's Labyrinth does perfectly.
Yeah.
The amount of characters explaining their feelings and like wasted scenes on stuff, there is not 1 second of fat in that movie.
No.
They tell the entire backstory by like the uncle walking in and standing up stiffly. And it's like, that's it. That's his whole character, that's all you get.
It's gonna sound like we hated this movie.
Yeah.
But I think that what the problem is this movie's actually just kind of like normal and fine, and sometimes boring and sometimes good. But we're two guys that watched like Pan's Labyrinth, and we know what he can do.
Yeah.
So seeing him achieve like little slivers of Pan's Labyrinth quality amidst kind of a movie that's just kind of mediocre makes me so angry. It makes me like, if this was just a no-name director and I watched this on streaming, I'd be like, whatever.
Yeah.
He did fine. Good for him. But then it's Guillermo Del Toro, I'm kind of like, gah.
Yeah, it's weird to see like because I'll go ahead and say like, Nosferatu I didn't love. And the Gary Oldman Dracula movie, the Francis Ford Coppola one, didn't love. They were at least cohesive. It felt like one guy sat down and told a whole story the way he wanted to tell it, right? And each piece kind of built up in order. And I was like, maybe not the story I would have told, or like the style it was presented in was like, didn't really grab me. But it was like one thing. That's what I wanted for this movie. Because this felt like there was Frankenstein together. That's what it did. It felt like there was like chunks of different movies just kind of stapled onto each other in a way that was not cohesive. And that's what's so annoying, even when it doesn't end up being a disaster.
And you know what? I think this movie has, in retrospect, made me appreciate Nosferatu more, because I feel like Nosferatu had the balls to just, and I complained about this at the time, but they just told the story of the book. And if you know the story of the book, Nosferatu is a long movie to know what's going to happen, and that was one of my major complaints, right? But they did that, and then they focused purely on aesthetics and dialogue and atmosphere. And it's like they took the most predictable, well-known story you could and just layered on kind of artistic brilliance.
Yeah.
Frankenstein kind of did that, but the problem is they didn't respect the original story enough to let it play. It's like they tinkered a bunch of shit with the original story, especially with just padding the front of it.
Yeah.
And then added on artistic brilliance, but then it all kind of started to crumble because the foundation wasn't good.
Well, it's just, it takes so little meddling for me to suddenly, like, I'm no longer seeing the book translated. Now I'm seeing your meddling. Now I'm thinking about this doesn't make sense. Why have you done this?
Yeah,
right?
And I don't just want to sound like a book purist. There's changes they made to the book in this that I think were better.
I ain't even read the book, but like I feel
you
like
can feel
this.
it.
Yeah.
But like I said, like how they edited, how they decided to write the wedding sequence was a much more succinct way to tell that story in a film. Good change. But it's how fucking long they took to set it all up, and the motivations for the characters not being sound. And not trusting that the creator-monster relationship was interesting enough. I think that's what it really comes down to. Like, you could make a whole movie about that with a lot less, and it'd still be interesting. But it's like they had this fascinating story, and then they just kept being like, just up all the other stuff.
Yeah.
Make it brighter, make it longer, add more characters, add more beginning, add a prologue. And it's like, whoa. There's a great movie in here somewhere, but we've kind of just piled too much shit on top of it.
Yeah, that's how it felt. And I think there's a lot of dads who really enjoyed Rise of Skywalker who are going to walk out of this and be like, oh, that's pretty good. Good movie.
I don't
Like, I think
totally
that's-
get the Star Wars connection the same way you do, but there are going to be a lot of.
I think it's just because it's how much I feel the fingers grabbing and rearranging stuff, and I'm like, you aren't serving the movie.
I don't think Guillermo Del Toro is getting fingered by the studio in the same way.
It's what it felt like to me. I don't
I
think
agree,
Guillermo
it's
Del
what
Toro and said, I want to spend 40 minutes showing how he got the equipment to build the lab and who financed him.
I'm not certain, and the reason is, Shape of Water is a lot.
I haven't seen that.
Okay,
I'll say. I haven't
it's
seen that.
very similar to this movie because
Oh.
it's
Really?
in
It
that
won
it's
Best Picture.
well, I'm not quality, but I'm saying like as a story, it is
Okay.
about the creation of a monster and the complicated love interest between a human woman and a monster, and how that kind of consequences ensue. But Shape of Water wasn't about a book and didn't have a guy named Frankenstein in it that fucked that all up. So Shape of Water plays really well, and the whole movie is about that relationship and the conflict that arises around that relationship. I think what the problem is here is he did Shape of Water again, but then they also just had Frankenstein playing on a parallel track, and they just hoped they'd both work. But you didn't need to do Shape of Water. Frankenstein's got enough shit going on.
Yeah, there was an interesting story, and then there was a bad story. And
But that's why it makes me think it's not studio. I think
Maybe.
Guillermo Del
I
Toro's
might be
getting
getting-
lost in the sauce, and he's like, I know how to do a monster movie. You gotta have a lady love the monster. Listen to me. I don't know why he's Italian now. But Guillermo Del Toro, I think
his accent's really hard to do.
he might have got up on his own sauce a bit and just thought he knew better and put in too much shit.
Well, Guillermo, we're in Toronto. If you want to stop by and explain to us whether you're the reason this sucks or the studio is.
You're the reason this is mediocre.
Yeah.
This did not suck.
No, it didn't suck.
But we do expect excellence, so I think we're just disappointed.
Yeah, I want to give Guillermo the credit to say that he got sewered on this one, but
All right, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Guillermo got fingered.
I demand a single grace from you.
Did you like Jacob Elordi?
yeah,
I thought he was really good.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, like, again, stacking this up against Nosferatu, I think that's tough because I think what I would have loved is, I think, a little bit more. I would say, like, the first half hour of Jacob Elordi when he can't really talk and it's all physicality. I thought that was like a B. That was okay.
Yeah. I was thinking the whole time, like, what would anyone else do, though?
Yeah,
You know
I
what
get
mean?
it.
But I agree, it
And,
wasn't
like,
that
I don't
stimulating.
know, but I
Yeah,
think every single scene Bill Skarsgård is on screen in Nosferatu, I'm like,
fair enough.
this guy figured out how to play a monster. My goodness. And I think once Jacob Elordi became like a tortured British man who's like wearing the cloak and delivering dramatic dialogue, I actually think he did a really good job.
Again, once the tower explodes.
Once the tower
They
explodes.
had to fucking get there faster.
But when it's just Harry and the Hendersons with Oscar Isaac in the basement trying to teach him sign language. Yeah. It's just like I'm just watching Jacob Elordi in a diaper, and it was okay.
But when he gets some hair,
When he gets some
and
hair and some furs.
and a coat, he does a very good job. His stuff with the old man was really good.
Yeah.
He feels a little bit, he's kind of on the Robert Pattinson track.
Yeah.
Where he did the pretty boy, like, Euphoria stuff, then he started got a little more of a serious role, and now he's doing big stuff.
Was
and
he
I think he's
good in Saltburn?
He's very good in Salt.
Okay,
I really, really liked him. But again, it was kind of smart because they cast him because he looks like Jacob Elordi.
Yeah.
But then he's actually like an actor who can hold up with the freaky looking guy in it. What's his name?
Yeah, Barry
Kogan. Yeah. He's like, but yeah, no, I think I was really happy to see him do very well in this. I think he's probably the standout,
Yeah, I think he was my
at least
favorite
from a performance perspective.
Which is funny because, like, going in, if you told me again, I have Oscar Isaac, Christoph Waltz, Mia Goth, and Jacob Elordi, I'm like, ooh, like show me the dragons meme of the one idiot dragon. But he was like the best. I think it was because his character kind of had to stay true to the books. The one thing that like I was a little frustrated with by his character. This is again like I haven't read the book. Maybe this is just not staying true. There's a lot of scenes where he's like going "Rah!" and smashing guys' heads in and stuff. I wanted more conflict and character around that. Like there's a scene where he like kills a bunch of wolves. He like kills a bunch of the sailors. I think I wanted more of like him wrestling with that or like being unwilling to. But it just kind of did like, okay, we're gonna do 10 seconds of the Incredible Hulk where he just goes "Rah!" and then guys die and then he has a character beat.
I agree. Again, a writing problem, not a Jacob Elordi problem.
No, it wasn't his fault.
Because in the book, if I remember correctly, the first time he experiences death, because again, he's woken up from the tower and doesn't even know what he is the drowning of the young girl who he befriends.
Right.
And then the family thinks it's him and chases him off, and he really struggles with that. Like, that death is really impactful to him, and that teaches him what death is.
It would make sense. Like, they have the scene of the deer getting shot, which should be impactful, and then they cut away and go do other stuff immediately. Like, yeah,
but again,
spend time with
I think it would have played better if we had less time with him in shackles.
Yeah.
Because he didn't feel like a newborn baby in the woods like he did in the book to me. He felt like a newborn baby in the dungeon.
Yeah.
By the time he gets out, he's like a teenager, and I'm like, don't you kind of know some of this already though? If he was more of like a newborn when he went out into the world, I think you could have played more with the conflict around what does it mean to murder someone? What is death?
Yeah. I think there was a big opportunity there, and it kind of suffered from that action movie problem of like, oh no, a recognizable actor has died, and so now I'm sad. Right? It's like David Bradley is dying, and like, yeah, that was like pretty impactful, but it's like the 12th guy that's died on this farm, and he killed half of them. It's like,
yeah.
It's another just kind of missed opportunity, and just something that I more so than Jacob Elordi did anything wrong, like I wanted to see him do that. Because I think there were bits of him doing really good physical acting with like discovering his body and
mimicking Frankenstein's hand movements. That was very subtle.
There was some cool stuff there, and like I wanted just like 2 minutes holding on him as he's just killed someone, realizing what that means, right? Just give me like a no dialogue scene where he's just got like one of the hunters whose neck he just snapped, and he's just going like,
you know what I'm realizing?
and they didn't do it.
What we're describing is in a violent nature, but it's Frankenstein.
Yeah, but like,
but a little more like that.
Yeah.
Like, give me 5 minutes of Frankenstein walking around in the woods and killing someone, and then just, as you said, hold on him.
That would be good. I think Jacob, from everything I saw, he would have done really well with it. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
And they just kind of have to speed through it to get to the next set piece.
Another thing, this is making me think of it. This movie, like, could have just been PG, and then there was like extreme violence
and a little bit of nudity, which was very
but the extreme violence I had fun with as a horror fan, but I kept thinking like none of it really was required, and the rest of the movie feels like almost like a family movie.
Yeah,
like it could just be a PG, like Beauty and the Beast type dark fantasy thing you could take your kids to, except you can't because there's like visceral dismemberments.
Yeah.
But there's not like that many of them. There's like 6. But it was a weird thing where it was almost, again, I felt like Guillermo like didn't quite get the balance on that because it felt so cozy, colorful,
it's true,
almost Christmas movie vibe. And then there's just like horrible dismemberments that means only adults can go see this. Another just weird tonal mismatch kind of thing.
Yeah, like the more we talk about it, like
it's Frankenstein.
This is brilliant.
It really is a
Guillermo, you got us. You made this ugly, disgusting mess that we're struggling to love, but we need to see the heart and the soul deep down inside this movie. That's what you're
and we're searching for the answers from the creator, you, Guillermo Del Toro. It's beautiful.
Oh my God,
maybe it's a masterpiece. You know what? A+.
I remember pieces.
We've talked about this a long time. I think we should probably score this sucker.
Again, I think we've said a lot of very negative things for what was definitely not a terrible movie.
No.
It's just a frustrating movie for people who have seen where this could have been.
Seen Pan's Labyrinth. Yeah. Or even Shape of Water, for that matter. But
Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Which I didn't love, but like was at least like a...
It was more cohesive.
Yeah, they had an idea and they made a movie around the good idea.
Yeah.
And just pile poo on each other.
So if you came here for the clickbait title, I'd have to say Nosferatu's better. There you go. That's the big reveal.
Yeah.
Which we were pretty harsh on, so that's kind of funny. But let's get into critical scoring. Screen takes. We'll do a critical score, and then we'll get into our personal subjective scoring. This one should be interesting. So, do you have one?
Yeah.
Give me your critical score, Avery.
Critical score, I'm gonna give this a B-. I think that there's nothing, it's not awful, and there is some really good parts, but I think overall, it's just too long. And I think when you just shovel this many bad scenes into something, it's gonna drop you down to a B-. Gonna be a lot of people who really enjoy it, but I just like, I have to fault it for a lot of the things that did wrong.
Okay, I think that's not crazy. I'm gonna critically give it a B+. A reasoning for that is I do think it messed up a lot of stuff. But I also think if you're gonna make a Frankenstein movie, this is like a big fuck you Frankenstein movie. It looks like Frankenstein movie. It's got the gothic art all down. And the writing is very frustrating to me, almost relative to the quality of the creator and like to the book. But the movie like plays fine. And I think that the movie is really elevated by the production. Like the sets, the production design, the makeup, the costumes, the music. It feels and looks the way a Frankenstein movie should. When I get into the nitty-gritty of the writing, I get very frustrated. Which is why it's surely not in the A's at all. Like, this is not a great film. But I think that for kind of like retelling an old book, it did a pretty good job. I want to give it a B+ critically, which might just be because I feel a little bit guilty about my personal. I'm going to give it a C+.
Okay.
I was thinking about B-, but I honestly think that's a little too generous because I didn't really love this. I was very intellectually engaged by it because I knew we'd have to talk about it.
I liked figuring out what I was going to say about it.
And I love the book, so I was obviously going to see this, but I don't want to watch this again. I don't think it's for me. The parts that are good, I don't think I liked even as much as someone should.
Yeah.
And the parts that frustrated me, I think frustrate me more than is reasonable. Like, normal people will just not care, and I'm like actually actively angry.
Yeah.
So
I'm amazed that we feel so similarly about
me
that
too.
stuff.
This is weird because it's also like pretty much critically and audience extremely highly reviewed.
Yeah.
It's like 90s on Rotten
really?
Tomatoes. Yeah. So
Okay, because I deliberately have looked up nothing about this.
I checked before we shot because I knew what I wanted to say and I wasn't gonna let it sway me, but that did surprise me. So I feel like it is weird we're on this. But I'm gonna go. I think I'll go C+ personal and B+ critically. That feels right to me.
So I gave it a B- critical, and personally I'm going down to a C.
Okay.
And I think the crux of it is, I want to pick up on something you said, which is that I think this is like a big, if you're going to do a big fuck you Frankenstein movie, I don't feel that way.
Okay.
Although I didn't love it, like, if I want to go watch a Dracula movie, and I want to like, what is Dracula about? I want to feel it, I want to get it, and I want to like immerse myself in the themes and the aesthetic, then I think both the Francis Ford Coppola one and Nosferatu kind of take different angles, but they get you there.
You're drenched in that.
If I'm like, I read the Mary Shelley book and I'm like, I want to feel that way, I am not watching this movie. I think there's little bits and pieces of it. I'm going to go watch Van Helsing. Like, I'm going to go watch the Boris. I'm going to watch, like, I think Young Frankenstein's a better adaptation. It
As
does
someone who
not
hasn't
do
read
that.
the book.
Yeah. Fair enough. Like,
I hear what you're saying though, and I don't entirely disagree. Like, I think the reason I'm being more generous with it is because there have not been almost any true adaptations. There is no Bram Stoker's Dracula of Frankenstein where I can be like, well, this is just worse than that one.
Yeah.
Every other depiction of Frankenstein has been kind of a bastardization of Frankenstein, and I know there was one I haven't seen from a while ago that was supposed to be true to the book, but there's a lot less Frankenstein media that is accurate to the book. This is much closer. If in the 90s, like Francis Ford Coppola, if a great Frankenstein movie had come out at that point, I'd probably be a lot harsher on this.
It's true, and like I am letting comparison do the talking, but it's like if they announced in 10 years that some up-and-coming brilliant horror director is doing Dracula, I'd kind of be like, okay, but like, what are you gonna do with that?
Right.
Whereas if they said they're doing Frankenstein, like I'd be ready in 3 years.
Yeah.
If you told me that Robert Eggers is making Frankenstein in 2028, I'd be like, great.
You're right. That would be my response.
So
yeah,
and you know what? I just spent most of this movie kind of thinking about like we were on the verge of greatness. I keep bringing up Star Wars. I'm gonna keep doing it. We're on the verge of greatness, right? Like it's on the drive home, thinking about that idea for an actually really interesting movie, like a director's cut of just just cut out all the shit and just do this movie between Jacob Elordi and Oscar Isaac, where that starts your setup is that Jacob Elordi is hunting him down. I'm like, that would have been so cool. I just spent a lot of this movie going like, all this stuff isn't that, and it annoys me. So I'm giving it a C.
So we had so many comments on our Nosferatu video that hated us because they're like, well, then you shouldn't. If you want to watch that movie, then you should have gone out and written a movie. And it's like, which is exactly what we're doing. We're just describing a different film that we wish this was.
Yeah.
But whatever. It would. We're doing it as a way to illustrate areas the film could have improved. We're not actually suggesting that either of us could write a better film than Guillermo del Toro, but like Frankenstein, there are parts of this I want to take and reanimate because they're really good. But the problem is they put a bunch of other like shitty body parts in there that kind of ruin it. It's like how they wouldn't use Christoph Waltz because he has syphilis. There's too many syphilis body parts in the Frankenstein. They gotta get rid of all the syphilis bits and just have the pure meat. And then it would be better.